If you Google pretty much any direct sales company, you're going to find some negative stuff on the internet, like pretty much anything out there, right? So I understand why sometimes people are a little cautious about revealing, here's the comp plan, or here's the structure, or here's the name of our company. But the reality is people are going to Google it anyway. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy you're here today. If you're watching us on video, you can see I have a very special guest sitting right next to me. We have brought Jeremy Launder, my business partner and life partner, and all the things. Back for a very special episode. I thought this would be actually a really fun one to have you on for, because today we're talking a little bit about how to pick the right direct sales company or even an affiliate program that really fits what you're looking for. And as much as we're very aligned in life and business, I think there's some things that maybe you would do differently than I would when you're in the driver's seat calling the shots. And for those listening that might be thinking about maybe starting with a new company or switching companies or finding themselves at a crossroads where they're trying to figure out where they want to get started in direct sales, I thought it would be great to bring both of our perspectives to the table.
Yeah, happy to be back. Thanks for having me back.
Everyone loves it. They love it when you're here. Yeah. It's very popular. People are like, when's Jeremy coming back to the podcast?
You got me here.
It's like quarterly, usually. You make an appearance.
I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
We did an end of the year thing together. So it's been, by the time this episode goes live, about 3 months.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Jeremy and I have lots of sideline conversations, obviously, about our own business, about the industry, about shifts that are happening, things that are happening with our students and our members. And this is one that we've had a pretty healthy banter over, lunch or our walk the day, or maybe even over a couple cocktails, just kind of talking about what would you do if you were starting over in this industry. And I think this is such a timely episode because so many companies have made some major shifts and so many direct sellers are navigating change and they're trying to decide what's next for them. And some are trying to decide, do I stay in direct sales? Do I switch and do some affiliate marketing? Do I leave the industry altogether? Do I go get a 9-to-5? I mean, everything's on the table. And I'd say for the last maybe 4 to 6 weeks, pretty much every coaching call has touched on this in one way, shape, or another, right? Even if your company hasn't made any changes, you're seeing the changes that are swirling all around you in the industry. And it's top of mind. Like, do I need a plan B? Should I be thinking about something else? And I can't tell you how many times people have asked me personally, off the record, if I was to pick a company, who would I pick? And so I'm not going to name any names. I got my favorites out there, but we're going to talk a little bit more broadly, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about what those things are to consider. Yeah?
Yeah.
You're up for it?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. We're bringing two sides of the coin to the table today. So when people ask me, the number one thing that I usually say is that it has to be a good fit. Like, it has to be a product that you love. It has to be something you're passionate about. But then I start thinking about other things too, like the community, the culture, who your upline is going to be, how you feel about the leadership there at the company that you're considering. So those are some of the things that I usually think about. What are some of the first things that come to mind for you?
Those things are definitely important. If it's, you got to love the product. If you don't love the product, you're not going to want to get out there and talk about it, share it, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's definitely number one.
Yes.
Company-wise, I think there's a few things, right? The comp plan is definitely something that I would be diving into to see how much commission I'm going to be making. A lot of them have like different bonuses. If you sell certain amounts, you can make more, that kind of stuff. Because, companies to talk about CSV and revenue, and that's like what the company's making. But for you as the direct seller, what's really important is your profit essentially and what you're keeping. So something like a 20% commission on your sales is pretty typical. So really thinking about how much you're bringing home of the revenue that you're selling or generating.
And just to add to that, I think any episode that we've shared here on the podcast where we talk about finance, we talk about this disconnect, right? Every incentive, everything that your direct sales company is measuring is based on retail value. It's based on that total sales volume that you're bringing in. It's not necessarily they're measuring how much is actually being deposited into your bank account. So sometimes it feels, hey, I had a $5,000 month. That was huge. Or, hey, my team has generated $100,000 in sales. But when it comes down to your actual paycheck and your take home, obviously, you're only making a percentage or a fraction of that. I think that's super important. But the other thing that you didn't say that came to mind for me as well is just the average purchase size too, right? Like a 20% commission on an average purchase size of 200 looks a lot different than an average purchase size of $40, right? And I didn't realize that when I started out in direct sales. I was selling books. And children's books, if I had a good day, somebody was placing a $40 or $50 order. It wasn't until I switched into selling clothing where it was premium pricing. Yeah. And the average order was a couple $100. And I had the same number of customers, but all of a sudden my income went way up because my average order went up too.
Yeah. But another thing you have to think of with businesses like that too is if you're having to carry inventory, or if you're having to do like minimum purchases every month or quarter or whatever it is, like that eats into your profit too. Like you're making 20% on your commissions, but if you're having to like keep this inventory and you're not selling through it, then your profit's going to be even lower than that 20% that you would normally get on just commission versus, which I think we'll talk about a little bit, but in an affiliate arrangement, you're just sharing a link to whatever the thing is. You're not really having to keep inventory or anything like that. So that 20% is generally there's not a lot of other costs that you would have that are tied to that.
And I think comp plans can feel really confusing as we're thinking about maybe the average direct seller that is thinking about a business opportunity. Analyzing a comp plan is probably not in their zone of expertise or genius, right? And I've looked at a lot of comp plans, and even after looking at many hundreds of comp plans, probably, I still sometimes get a little hung up on just the ins and outs and the genealogy and the breakaways. And like, it can feel really confusing. So I think it's important when you're considering any opportunity to get all of your questions answered before jumping into anything, like really studying that comp plan. And if you're not a numbers person, ask somebody that is, or get some clarity from someone that is used to looking at comp plans, because not to say companies are tricking you at all, but they're not straightforward. It's not necessarily like you sell this, you get that. Most of the time there's layers and layers to the comp plan, and it doesn't necessarily even matter to you a whole lot until you're doing some serious volume. And then once you're doing serious volume, if that's when you finally figure out how the comp plan works, sometimes you're like, wait a minute, like I'm a little surprised here. And you don't want there to be any surprises when it comes to how much you're getting paid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing that I'd be thinking about, I don't know, I guess a couple red flags for me are if whoever you're talking to about like the business opportunity or the company, if they're not like forthcoming and honest about the comp plan and all of that kind of stuff, that's a big red flag. Or if they won't tell you what company that they represent like ahead of time, if it's like a big mystery and secret. Like that kind of stuff would be a big red flag to me too. If you're not comfortable sharing what the company name is, I feel like that's it's a hard no for me.
Yeah. And here's the other thing that I'm just going to play like a little devil's advocate here, because I understand why sometimes people are like, hold on, let's like get further in the conversation before I spill all the beans. If you Google pretty much any direct sales company, you're going to find some negative stuff on the internet, like pretty much anything out there, right? So I understand why sometimes people are a little cautious about revealing, here's the comp plan, or here's the structure, or here's the name of our company. But the reality is people are going to Google it anyway. Yeah. So it's way better to be forthcoming and share that information. And also, recognize the people that are complaining on the internet about direct sales are the people it didn't work out for.
Right,
so
for sure.
They're going to be the ones that are bad-mouthing a company. And like I said, even the best of the best companies, you're going to find a negative review on just because it's the nature of the industry. Yeah. So keep that in mind too.
Totally.
Anything else comp plan related that you would think about?
I don't just the how much it costs to get started is generally something to keep in mind too. Most direct sales companies, it doesn't cost very much to get started usually. Maybe there's like a ongoing tech fee for your website or whatever, but usually you're not having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get started. It's usually, I don't know, from what I've seen, it seems to be like less than $1,000 to get started. So just another thing to keep in mind.
And if there's a larger investment, because I was with a company that had a larger investment when you got started, true. There was also samples and inventory provided that you would sell off in essentially a sample sales. It's not totally unusual for clothing companies. I'm trying to think of some of the other industries where you might see a higher startup fee, but usually you can recoup those costs. And that company should be able to show you how to recoup those costs, like within your first, I'd say 30 days. Yeah. You should really be able to recoup those costs and feel good about it. Okay, let's talk about company ownership, because this has been a hot topic lately with some of the shifts happening in the industry. And we're not experts when it comes to company structure and investors and all of those things. But there's private companies, there's publicly traded companies. Some companies are debt-free. Some people have investors that have part ownership in the company. What are some of those questions that you would be asking or thinking about when it comes to company ownership? Because this is something I literally had never thought about before jumping into direct sales. This is not something that crossed my mind at all.
Yeah. If they are a public company, then that is nice, because there's actually a lot of public information that will be available then. You can go find all of their like filings with the SEC or whatever. You can see their books and how much revenue they're doing and how much profit they're making. All that stuff would be publicly available.
Because they have to be transparent to those that have stock, right?
Yeah, exactly. If they are publicly traded, there is automatically some sort of transparency and additional data that you can go gather from that. And a lot of times they have investor calls and stuff if you really want to dig into it and hear from their leadership on what's going on with the company and all that. That was nerdy stuff I've done in the past.
Hold on. Have you ever listened to a direct sales, what do they even call it? Like quarterly review, investor call?
Yeah.
Is it interesting?
I was born. Or paper pie now.
Sorry. Yeah. So good. All right. So that's something to consider. What about privately owned companies? Sometimes that information isn't as readily available and you can't really get a good feel for things.
If it's a private company, like they don't have to share all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So you might not have access to it. It's not, at that point, I think it just becomes trust. I don't know. I feel like with most of the companies, like the higher level people in the company are still like involved or often even the face of the company and all that kind of stuff. So go look at some of the talks they've done or things that they've publicly shared and talked about and see if it's like a good vibe, because really like the vibe of the company is going to flow off of the leadership, either the owner or whoever, the chief sales officer or whoever is up at the top of the company. I feel like really sets like the culture and the vibe. So make sure that align and it fits with you.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot out there on the internet. You can't trust all of it, but a lot of the time you can search up a company and see who are the primary owners of the company and how involved are they in the decision making and the day-to-day business of the company, because I think that also makes a big impact. If they've sailed off to retirement and they're doing something totally different now, then somebody else is calling the shots and making the day-to-day decisions that are going to impact you as an independent distributor for the company, because ultimately you're their decisions flow down to you, right? Yeah. You unfortunately don't get much say when it comes to policy changes, comp plan changes, product choices, production, distribution, shipping. It's all of those things that are completely out of your hands. So you really have to feel good about trusting who's calling the shots.
Right. And I mean, it's good and it's bad. Like they take care of all that stuff and you don't have to. It makes it really easy to start your business and get up and running and sell. But at the same time, because it's, with that ease comes the trade-off of you don't have as much control, right?
Yeah. Here's another question.
You go.
You go. Okay, here's another question then. What about a brand new startup company versus a company that's been established around for 100 years? What's your take on that? I'm curious. I don't know if we've talked about this one before.
I think with any new company comes more risk, right?
Yeah.
Like with more established companies that have been around for years, the product has customers. They've been around for however long they've been around. So there's demand for the product, and I would just say that there's likely should be less risk that like the company's not going to make it if they've been around longer.
Yeah.
Not always true. I would just say compared to a new startup, there's generally like there's a potential for higher reward, I would say, because they're new.
Yeah, you're getting
in
early.
early on something.
Yeah.
If they grow and take off, then there's potential for you to, make a lot more there, but it's also just more risk, right? They're brand new, products haven't been out there for very long or whatever. I would just say there's probably more risk that a company that's brand new might not make it versus a company that's been around longer.
Yeah. And I think about startup mode because we've been there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a little messy. There's a little bit of, you haven't ironed out your systems yet. Like some things aren't going to go according to plan. And I think if you are aligning with a company that is newer, you have to know that you're going to hit those road bumps, whether it's like product production or it's shipping
Websites crashing when launches happen.
Websites, yeah, exactly. All of those things, because you just don't know until you test the system, or you have incredible growth really fast.
Yeah.
And then these companies are scrambling to figure things out. I feel like when you're in the sales field, you look and you're like, oh, they know everything. They got this down. But behind the scenes, it's, you don't get to see all the messiness when you're in the field, which is probably really good. But it's like any business.
Yeah,
there's things that are going to work, things that are going to maybe not.
Startups in general, just not even necessarily direct sales, just startups in general are more risky. They're new, right?
Yeah. We've talked about a bunch of things, right? Comp plan. We've talked about new, old companies that are privately owned, publicly owned. But ultimately, is there anything that's just completely risk-free?
No, of course not. Everything you're starting in business, right? It's nothing. I guess nothing is easy when it comes to business. People will try to make it sound like it's easy, and direct sales is like a less risky way to enter business, I would say, but just because investment's lower and time to get started, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, like, you are responsible for generating all your revenue, right? All your income. So it's not, you can't just show up to your job and put in as much effort as you need to and still collect your paycheck, whether you do really well or not. So business in general just carries more risk, I would say, than going to your job.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Depends. Lots of people getting laid off right now, too.
I was going to say, like, anyone that's a federal employee right now may have a different perspective on that. But no, I think that's it, though, right? What you put in is what you get out. And ultimately, being a direct seller, there's a lot that you're not responsible for. And we could have an entire episode about that. And that's a lot of the behind the scenes that you're not seeing that your company is doing. Yeah, like you're not calling the shots. You're the receiver of decisions that are being made, and they flow down to you in many ways.
I was going to say, so a couple more points on, so even for newer companies, though, if you look at the people running the company, like a lot of them will have come from something else, right? Like they may have worked at a previous company and sold it and are trying something new or whatever. That's another thing you can look at too. If they've had success in business in other places, like that probably would... Yeah, it would feel a little bit better to join that startup. The other thing I was going to say, companies that start bringing on like big private equity companies, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it definitely makes it a little, there's much more drive for them to get their profit out of the business, whatever it takes. And I feel like when I've seen somebody who was like the founder and owner and ran the company forever, and then private equity comes in and takes it, the culture definitely changes. And a lot of times I feel like the changes aren't super beneficial for the reps. So I don't know. That's always, I would always be a little bit worried about that.
And I think the reality is direct sales is a special place. Like it's a unique industry in many ways. The way that we operate is different than just a straight e-commerce company or a retail division. And I think a lot of times some of the private equity firms that are coming in they don't get it. They don't get it. Let's just say it. Like sometimes they just don't understand the impact of the leaders and the impact of the sales field, and they're making cost-cutting decisions because they're trying to optimize profit. That's their job, is to get a good return on things. But what they're missing is the secret ingredient of direct sales, and that's the people, and that is a people-to-people business. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. When things have gone sideways, a lot of times, my guess, and again, I have no proven knowledge of this, but my guess is the people calling the shots are not the people that have ever done what you do. They've never been in the sales field. They probably don't have direct experience with the direct sales industry. And that's when things just get maybe a little sloppy. Not even messy. We're just going to go sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sums it up.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Couple other things. Of course, the product, like that matters to me, right? You want to make sure it's a product you like. You want to make sure it's a product that's unique, that you can't just go grab at Target or Amazon, right? We want to make sure that you're selling a product that is available through you and not readily available everywhere else. And as much as companies are diversifying and omni-channel is a real thing, and we're seeing that, there should be at least a subset of products that are only available through a distributor, right? Otherwise, then it's just, what's the point? We're just going to go order things on Amazon.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends probably. If they're selling it for cheaper than you can sell it for, then I think that's a problem. But I've heard you talk about all the time and the stuff you train on, right? Like people buy from you because they like you.
They do.
Amazon's not reaching out to them to see if they need more of the makeup or whatever, right? Like you're the one checking in on them and following up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it would be better maybe if they have to buy it from you or whatever, or have to buy it through reps, but I don't necessarily know that it has to be that way. I don't know. Either a lot of them sell directly, like to consumer, right?
Yeah, direct to consumer. All right, I hear you on that. I do think that it is common for products to be available through Amazon and distributors that they do. They like shopping with you. I would say to pick a product category that isn't readily available in all the places.
Yeah.
Because if they can get the same thing for the same price or cheaper at their local Target or at Amazon, it takes away the special factor of getting it from you.
Oh, for sure. Cost is going to be probably the biggest driver for most people. So if they can get the same thing for cheaper somewhere else, then they're going to get it for cheaper.
Okay. You went on that one. We'll let you have that one. What else? Community. Right? And you said this, so I think we both have said this. What's the vibe like? Vibe check here. Let's make sure we like the people. We like the company values. We like the way that they show up online. They like the way that they train people to sell. I can name a handful of companies, and I can tell you right now, I don't like the way that they train their people to sell. It's not in alignment with my values, and maybe it's effective, but it's not the way that I show up for my people. And I think knowing how the most successful sellers are selling is something to really understand. Is this truly a social selling company? Is this a party-based company? Are the most top performing people in the company selling just on repeat orders, or are they getting new customers? A lot of that of just how people are selling, I think will shed a lot of light into if it's a good fit or not.
Yeah.
I also think about policies and procedures. And this is not something you usually see before signing up, right? Sometimes it's linked in the terms and conditions. And if you really dig deep,
when you sign up, you'll have to accept it. But not everyone reads it very closely.
No, you don't read it until you have an issue.
I do. I read it.
Jeremy, that's why he does all of our legal documents, because I'm the skimmer. I'm like, sounds good. Okay, perfect. No. But I think the policies, terms is important, right? Especially in this day and age, knowing, are you allowed to represent other companies?
For sure.
That are in the direct sales world? Are you allowed to represent other products in the same category? Is there a certain level of leadership that you're no longer allowed to have another side hustle? I think all of those questions are important to answer.
What about, I don't know. I'm sure there's debates about the legal validity of it, but non-competes, right?
Yeah.
Some of them have non-competes where, I don't know, what is it? You can't
solicit.
Oh, yeah. If you leave, you can't solicit reps from
that
company at your new company.
Yeah, and that's probably pretty standard contracted language for most direct sales companies. You're not allowed to poach people from one company to the next. That's in alignment with the DSA Code of Ethics as well, that you wouldn't be taking your whole team and going somewhere else. Does it happen? Does it, like, that's up for debate. But most policies, procedures, terms, conditions are going to have some kind of clause in there that you could potentially be legally liable for taking people from your company into another company.
Yeah, I don't know if they all have that. I don't know if they could actually enforce that,
but it's probably in there somewhere.
There. Okay, something to look out for.
Yeah. And I think other things is really like the biggest thing probably is the ethics, the values of the company. Does it run its business with integrity? And sadly, sometimes you can't always see that until stuff goes down.
Yeah.
But
that's a good, I don't know, something you could even ask about, right? Like, especially companies that have been around for a long time. There's peaks and valleys as a company goes, and asking them like, hey, what was it like? You were here during this tough time. What was it like? And how did they adapt or whatever, that kind of stuff? Because, I definitely feel like true colors show when things aren't necessarily going well.
Yeah. And how transparent are they being and sharing that with the larger sales field? I think that's helpful to get a view of, are things brushed under the rug and behind closed doors, or things openly addressed with the larger company? I think that's important. Okay, let's talk a little bit about affiliate marketing here, because we mostly have been talking about direct sales companies, but I know a lot of people out there are thinking, all right, I've been in direct sales. I don't know if I want to do the team building thing again, or my company has switched to more of an affiliate model.
It's becoming more and more common lately.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Or layering in an affiliate program. So we still have our direct sales level, but then we also have some affiliate stuff happening over here. What are your thoughts on affiliate programs, and how does that differ from the direct sales world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big difference between direct sales and affiliate programs are who really owns the customer relationship. Because in direct sales, it's really you as the rep that owns the customer relationship. Like, you're finding the customer, you're a lot of times even placing the order for them, or they place the order using your link, and then you get their information, and you're the one responsible for really cultivating that relationship, providing the customer support, asking if they need a reorder, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to affiliate marketing, really you're just referring your person to the company, and then the company takes over from there. So you'll get a commission on a sale just like you would in direct sales, but you're not responsible really for checking in on them for reorders and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it's really customer relationship is the big differentiator for me between direct sales and affiliate marketing.
Yeah, and I think compensation is something to talk about too. Like, a lot of affiliate programs, I think about Amazon, for example, right? Like, you're making a couple percent.
Like 2 to 4%.
Yeah, depending upon the product sold. Like, it's usually a much lower percentage. But I love the differentiation on who owns that customer. We're an affiliate for many companies. When I think about the companies that we do some affiliate work with, and I don't get the contact information of the people that we refer. I don't have to go take care of them. I don't have to check up on them. Like, they're just using our link to buy a product that we recommend.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hands off. So it's a very different experience when you're selling, because it's more about building this audience and sharing something that you love with your audience.
Yeah.
Versus direct sales, where you're starting more with, this is my warm market, these are people that are in my inner circle, and I'm going to share some stuff with them, and then continue to branch out and build an audience as you go. Typically in affiliate marketing, you're just putting it out there, and you're not always having personal connections or managing like a repeat order, or checking up on them, asking how they like the product or anything like that.
For sure. Yeah, the company is handling most of the customer relationship and stuff, but you could still use those same sort of like sales tactics you're talking about when you would start out in direct sales. That's a lot of it is word of mouth. It can be, right? Word of mouth. Hey, I bought these shoes. I love these shoes. Like, they look good on you. Here's my link to go buy the shoes or whatever. Like, that kind of stuff works too for affiliate marketing. But I think it's more common to be like online, and you're blogging and sharing links to things, or you're making YouTube videos and sharing links to things, or talking about it on social media. That kind of stuff I would say is more common, but you could do the other sales things too.
Yeah. So comparing the two, direct sales and affiliate marketing, do you think they're both relevant sales strategies for people to consider? Or do you feel like one is better than the other? Or if you were to look at all the opportunities on the table, is there one that you would pick over the other?
I think it depends. To me, there's not that much difference between like single level direct sales, non-team building, and affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
So I think it would really be like, do you want to be the one that owns that customer relationship? Do you want to be talking to people, all that kind of stuff? I would say probably, maybe not necessarily, but I was thinking probably in an affiliate arrangement, you would have less control and input and say. It's probably even less common to have like direct access to leadership in the company and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It depends. There's some affiliate programs that do have a lot of that, but I feel like a lot of them are not.
Yeah.
So I think that part depends. Like if you really want the multi-level and the team building and all that kind of stuff, then obviously you have to go direct sales. That's not really part of affiliate marketing. And then probably, also the way you want to sell. Like if you really like to sell in person and do parties or events or that kind of stuff,
affiliate sales,
you wouldn't really do that through affiliate marketing. It would be like what I'm into. I would go the affiliate marketing route just because I'm more online and that kind of stuff. But I think it's really up to you and how you want to sell and the type of business you want to run.
And you think direct sales is still relevant today?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the company side, what I think companies don't, like a lot of them are switching to affiliate marketing thinking or adding affiliate marketing thinking it's going to save them money, right? Like they're not going to have to pay out for these different levels and that kind of stuff. But it's the reps that are bringing in all the new customers. So if you're getting rid of the multi-level and now your reps aren't incentivized to bring new people into the business, like you're going to have less people coming into the business, less people referring. So really then it falls on the home office to be running ads or figuring out where to get all these new customers now that you're not going to get because your reps aren't recruiting new people into the business. So it saves you on the commission you have to pay out on those people, but your costs are going to increase because you have to do all this like marketing now and you have to find the customers yourself. So
coming in hot.
I don't know if you've talked about that really, but that's my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah, and I think they're just completely different strategies in some ways, right? Like from a corporate perspective, if you're going to use affiliate marketing as a way to sell, it's not going to replace direct selling like one for one, because you're going to lose a lot of those people that are there for the community. They're there for the customer relationship. They're there for the team building. So you're losing people, like you said, you're saving some money on that side, but you've got to offset that with, a really strong e-commerce program and text marketing and email marketing and all of the slick shopping experiences that we have on Shopify and getting retargeted on ads.
You got to find the customers another way if your sales force isn't going to be bringing in as many anymore, right?
Yeah, totally a different shift.
And it's not really, I think either one can work. It's just, they're just different. Like it's different ways to run the business, right? So I think it just depends.
Yeah. I think it'll be very telling over the next year or so as we've seen some companies shift and change their model to see just what kind of growth they see or lack thereof, right? Because I do think that it appears on the outside that the easy button is, let's just get rid of leaders or let's just reduce the comp plan or eliminate things. But what I think some of these companies are going to be missing out on are their biggest advocates that have been driving sales for them. So again, it goes back to the vibe of the company and that sort of thing.
But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do to survive. So that's where I think the being as transparent as you can
about the
decisions you're making, if you can, sharing like the why you're going the way you're going, all that kind of stuff, I feel helps at least with the camaraderie and the attitude and bringing them along with you on the journey as you're navigating the tough waters. I mean, it happens, right? There's business cycles and that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of business cycles and wins and fails and flops, and celebrations and all the things. We've had an affiliate program for years with Modern Direct Seller, and we've recently added an affiliate program with Oh My High. And it does drive a good amount of revenue for us. It's not the primary way that we sell, but we do offer that to our members. And we just recently launched something pretty big with our Oh My High affiliate program. So we're taking some of our favorite best practices from the direct selling world and have introduced an incentive trip. So we are just putting ourselves out there and maybe just navigating and gonna just see how things go.
Yeah.
But we're sharing a little bit of the inside scoop with everyone over on the blog, right?
Yeah.
That's our plan.
For sure.
So as we've rolled this out and we're starting to put together marketing assets and we're doing some workshops and put together this trip with some really cool incentives, we're going to share some updates as we go, because not only is it going to be fun to maybe see a little insight of our business and the things that we look back on and we're like, ooh, shouldn't have done that. Or, ooh, that didn't go as planned. This worked really well. Yeah, or this works really well. And we think a lot of those lessons are going to be super transferable to a lot of the corporate clients that we're working with as well. It's a win. Plus, we're able to pay a bunch of people some great affiliate income rather than handing it over to Facebook on ads.
I would much rather pay our customers and our advocates than pay Facebook.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. That just kicked off just this last week. Come check that out. We're sharing a little bit on the blog if you want to follow a behind the scenes of our journey. Yeah. We covered a lot here tonight. This has been a really hot date.
Yeah. This is all on the ohmyhigh.com blog, right?
Oh, yeah. ohmyhigh.com blog. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Thank you for being here and sharing your transparent opinions of what you would be thinking about when choosing a direct sales or affiliate opportunity. I think you brought a little bit of a different perspective to the table than maybe I always offer. So thanks for sharing it.
You bet. And I didn't really say it, but what I've told you a lot is that I still think direct sales is a fantastic way to get started in business.
Yeah.
Or affiliate marketing. I actually think probably direct sales is an even better way to get started in business, because I mentioned it earlier, but there's low cost to entry, low barrier to entry, right? It's to get started, doesn't cost a ton. A lot of the logistics are really worked out for you. There's already a product. They already are usually giving you training. They're giving you marketing assets.
You have a community that's cheering you on.
You have a community. They give you a website or a link to sell things through.
Yeah.
All that stuff's all taken care of. It's a good way to get started. Do you want me to say this or not? Should I say this?
I don't know what you're about to say.
I personally feel that it's a good starter business. Mm-hmm. The margins are going to be better if you can figure out your own products to sell, right? Because if you're selling someone else's products, you're going to earn a commission off of whatever you're selling. Right. So 20%, whatever, maybe 30%, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great to get started in direct sales and actually figure out if running your own business is something you want to do. It's like an easy way to get started, figure out if it's something you want to do. And then if it is, and you continue with it as you build an audience and you have a following and all that kind of stuff, you can figure out what of your own products that you could make to sell to the audience that you've built, whether it's courses and digital products or some other physical product or whatever, then you can start your own thing in parallel or instead of, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. That's been our journey, right? Got started in direct sales and I think it was a great training ground to be like, okay, how does this work? Can I be my own boss? Do I like this? Do I like the vibe? And there wasn't everything I liked about direct sales. There were certain times that I was also like, what the heck is my company doing? This is not what I would have been doing if I was in charge. As my business has grown, I've also been like, oh, I didn't see a lot of that was happening behind the scenes. And now that I partner with companies, I'm like, oh, okay, I get some of the decisions that were made and how hard things can be. But I think for us, it was like, okay, this does feel like a step that we want to take into entrepreneurship. And I think that really companies are evolving, the industry is evolving in such a way that maybe you could continue to sell your direct sales products, have an affiliate program that you represent that you love, and sell your own product. I know that kind of fragments what you're focused on, but if you're building more of a lifestyle brand and really positioning it as like, all I do is share things that I love, you can definitely launch some of those things in parallel.
Yeah, I think so. And obviously it doesn't have to be. A lot of people just do direct sales and make a lot of money and have success doing that too. So that definitely works too. I guess maybe I'm just more of a control freak. I like having a little more control over my destiny, I guess I would say.
And I think just diversifying, and that's definitely been a theme that we've been talking a lot about, especially if you feel like maybe your company doesn't check all the boxes that we just covered today on this podcast. And maybe there's things that you're feeling a little uncertain or a little uneasy about. There's nothing wrong with having a fallback plan or a plan B or stepping into something new without totally abandoning what you've built. I think a lot of people are in that spot right now where they're, okay, do I just stick with this? Or is that crazy of me to just stick with what I'm doing? I think the beauty of it is that you have options and everyone kind of has their own customized path. I can say just from having so many conversations in the last few weeks that every conversation is different and everyone's different. Yeah. And everyone's in a different season of life and has different options on the table. And you just have to pick the path that's right for you. And that could be direct sales. That could be affiliate marketing. That could be your own business. It could be going back to work full-time, or maybe working full-time while you're building something up on the side. Like there's lots of ways to be successful. And that's probably why I love the direct sales industry.
And that's actually what we did. Because I still had my job, my full-time job, while you were building up your direct sales business. Did we mention
control freak?
I do stability. I do like that stability.
Yeah, if you've heard our previous podcast, the word stability was the word of wine therapy in 2020 of what was holding him back from jumping in and doing our own thing. Stability.
Yeah.
It is nice to have that steady paycheck coming in. And when all your bags are in the entrepreneurship bucket, then it's a little bit less reliant.
Yeah, it's just all relying on you.
On me personally?
No, just like you as the business owner, right? You're responsible for making all the money.
Making all the decisions.
Versus showing up and doing your job and knowing that
clocking
paycheck's
out.
coming.
Yeah, so good. All right, this episode lasted a little bit longer than I thought, but I feel like we've covered a lot of ground and we've given a lot of people a lot of things to think about and gave them a glimpse into our conversations over dinner.
It was fun.
It was so fun. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me.
See you guys next time.
Bye
everyone. This episode is sponsored by CintShare. CintShare is the #1 social media scheduler for direct sellers and loved by creators in any industry. It's truly your one-stop shop for all things social. Join hundreds of thousands of social sellers and entrepreneurs who turn to CintShare for free social media training and resources. Get started today with your free 30-day trial at moderndirectseller.com/CintShare.